So welcome to the CIS 131 video of 1D arrays. So I kicked off in Eclipse a basic kind of one basic file. And this is going to be a simple file, so notice here we have a main method that has public and the public stuff, public static void and whatnot. And what I'll be making is basically a 1D array. So you probably have seen arrays before if you've taken the prerequisites for this course. And just to make you refresh or familiarize with them, basically an array is a type of memory that is basically a type of variable that has all the values of all the same type stored together in memory, and then you can go from one space to another. So to declare an array in Java, you're going to do your type. So I'm going to do an integer, put square brackets afterwards, your variable name. So I'll just call this int array. And then what you're going to do is you need to define the value. So what you're going to be doing when you define an array is normally, for most variables, just putting the declaration in front of it tells the operating system allocate this much memory. But you actually need to allocate how much space. So when you do new, so what new does is it tells the operating system, okay, declare a new set of memory. So in Java, and if you're familiar with a lot of you won't be familiar with C, but most static variables, or most arrays in other languages are called, there's two types, there's static and dynamic. Static means the memory is allocated before the program runs, and dynamic arrays mean the memory is allocated after the program, as the program is running. So this is going to be what's in Java. All arrays are dynamic. So I'm going to when this line runs, the memory is going to be allocated. So I'm going to do equals new. So I'm saying, okay, allocate new memory, int, and then I'm going to put in here how much memory I want to do. So I'll say 100 in this case, and then it will allocate 100 spots. It's a little big, so I'll maybe make this, I don't know, 15. So what I'm going to do now is I have this array, so it basically has 15 elements, and then I'm going to run, write values to them and print them out. So in Java, I do for int ii equals 0. So I'm doing a for loop, and usually when you're allocating arrays, you generally use for loops. I'm going to do ii is less than, and so you can get the size. So I know here it's actually 15, but I can say, if I don't know what the size is, I can do int array dot length, and there's a variable associated with the int array, for lack of a better word, class, that gives you the length. And I'll do ii plus plus. So what this will do is it'll go through all the values in the array. And so I'm going to assign values to this. So I'm going to do int array, and then to access the value, when you are assigning a value, you put the square brackets and then the element. So in this case, it's going to be ii, so it's going to be the first iteration, put 0 in there, and this equals, and I'm going to do ii times 100. So what's going to put in the first instance is 0, then 100, then 200, 300, all the way up to 1500. And this is, so I'll be assigning values. And then to actually access the values, do for, and then I'm going to do a little bit different thing this time. I'm going to do int, and so in Java there's equivalents to for each. So basically we'll go through every element. So I'll do int, and I'll just call this infal, and then if I do colon, int array, it will go through all the values in the array. So I'm going to print out, so I'll do system dot out dot print line, and then I'll say infal equals plus infal, and this will print out all the values in the array. So I'm going to save this, and then open up the value. So I got 1D arrays, run as Java application, and then notice how it runs and prints out the values. And then if you want to, you can actually, so I have a hard-coded value in here, but this is kind of bad programming. So I'm going to say, I'm going to bring in a scanner. And so one nice thing about Eclipse is it usually automatically fills stuff in. So I'm going to do scanner equals new scanner. And I'll do system.in, so I do the command line. And then notice how I'm getting a warning error here. Now if I put my cursor over scanner here, it's going to give me the option to import the value. So I'll click on this, it'll import it, and then notice how up here I have scanner Java util scanner. So it has the values, and then I get a warning here. So warning saying there's a variable not being used. And for this class, try to avoid having any warnings in your code. I'm going to look for those when I'm grading. So I'll do next int. I'll say num of elements equals this. And so I probably should have an input value. You always want to have some prompt for users. One thing you need to do is assume that, again, not losers, but I guess users can be losers. Users may not know what you're trying to do, so always try to make it as easy as possible for users in context instead of having to look up something in the manual. So enter number, enter size of array. And I'm going to put this number of elements in here. And this way, I'm going to dynamically allocate the array. And I'm getting a warning here because I need to close this. And it might make it leaky. So after I'm done using this, I'm going to do scanner dot close, and it will basically free up the driver for this memory. So I'm going to try running this again. Enter size of array. I will do 12. And then notice here how it prints out from 0 to 1100 because 12 will be the last element and it doesn't do that one. So I hope this is a good starter for 1D arrays. If you have any questions, please put them in comments and let me know if you have any problems.